This is the worksheet for lesson 9 and I'll be covering it. So the first part we have fluorine, which has a -1 charge if you look at the chart. So we have to do -1 plus some value to get 0, because we're trying to get a 0 charge. And in order to do that, we will just add 1, because -1 plus 1 equals 0. And then 0 equals 0, so there. 0 equals 0, we're good. So now we know that in order to cancel out the fluorine, we have to have a charge of 1. And if we look, sodium has a charge of 1. So the answer is sodium. The next one is which element should be combined with magnesium to get a charge of 0? So now we're using magnesium. So magnesium has a charge of +2. We're going to add some number to get 0. Now, what would we add to get 2 to 0? It would be -2. Because then this would just be 2 minus 2, and this would equal 0. So the answer would be -2, and if we look at the chart, oxygen has a charge of -2, so the answer is B, oxygen. How many atoms of sodium will be combined with oxygen to get 0? So we're going to set the number or the amount of atoms to x, and since sodium has a charge of 1, we would write 1. And then put the value of the atoms, which is x, and oxygen has a charge of -2, so we'd write -2, and then set it equal to 0, because we're trying to find the amount of atoms of sodium, which will get us basically cancel out the -2. In order to do this, we just isolate the variable, which is x, so we would add 2 to both sides, so then you just get x equals 2, and boom, since our variable is isolated, this is our answer. The answer is 2, so it's A. The balance on Shane's bank account is $80. Select the best answer from below to show the figure that will bring Shane's account to $0. So this is like the problem before here, but the difference is that this problem is using money. But think of it as Shane's bank account is a element, and this $80 is a charge. So we have $80. It's going to be plus some value, and it's going to be equal to 0. And how do we get 80 to 0? You would just subtract 80, because 80 minus 80 is 0. And then if we look, the answer choice, A, fits our answer here, because it's -80. So, yeah. What is the opposite number of -1? Since there's no 1 here, but there is, we don't write it there, but like say, for example, like these variables, it's 1x, but we just don't write a 1 there because you don't need to. Same thing for here. There is a 1 there, but you don't need to write it, but it will look like this. -1 times -6 this is how you can rewrite it. Since we know that a negative times another negative equals a positive, so 1 times 6, that equals 6, because 1 times anything is that number, and since they're both negative, that means this answer will be +6. So if we look, B will be our answer. What is the temperature? So the temperature of the air in the morning was -5 degrees, and in the evening it's 0 degrees. What is the temperature change? To do this, we're going to use absolute value. So we're going to have -5 plus some number, which will, or this temperature, oh sorry, -5 plus 0 equals some number. This is how we're going to do it. So in order to do absolute value, we just have to add what's in the middle. So what's -5 plus 0? It's just -5. And since it's an absolute value, we just make it positive because we're trying to find the change. So if it's a negative, you just make it positive, and if it's a positive, you just make it a positive as well. But you don't have to do that because it's already a positive. But since this is a negative, we just make it to +5 by just writing it like that. That equals x. So that x is, so C it says 5 degrees Celsius, and that matches our answer. Tell which number is greater. We have -4 and -3. Now, in a number line, it goes backwards. So when you have a number line, you have 0, and then you have 1, 2, and 3. The greatest to least goes from left to right. Just remember that. But so 1 is obviously less than 2. But when you go to the negative side, we have -1 and -2. -1 is greater than -2 because the greater numbers will always be on the right side or closest to the right. So if we keep drawing out a number line, like we have -4, -5. So for number 1, tell which number is greater. -3 would be greater because it's closer to the right side than -4. For number 2, we have -4 and 0. The answer would be 0 because 0 is closer to the right side of the number line. So that's how you think of it. Order the numbers from greatest to least. So we have 3, -5, 2.4, and 1. So let's use the positive numbers first. So we have 3 and 1. And we obviously know that 1 is less than 3. So we'll save this one for last. The next one we have -5, -2.4, and 1. So we know since 1 is positive, it's going to be greater than both of them. So we can just write it right there. And if you look at the number line, 2.4 is around here, -2.4, and -5 is here. So I'm just going to write a point here. This is -2.4, and it's closer to the right side than -5. So this will be greater than -5. So you have -2.4 here, and then -5. So this is the answer. In golf, the goal is to have the least score among all the players. Which golf score is a better score? So we have -8 and -12. Now, basically the trend, or like the pattern to find out which negative is least or greatest. So basically, the greater, so say if you think of the negative as positive, you have 8 and 12. Which number would be bigger? 12 would be, but since it's negative, it would be the opposite. So the greater the number, the less it is on the negative side. So since 12 is greater than 8 in the positive side, it would be like less than 8 on the negative side. That's how you can think of it. So, and we're trying to find the least score among all the players, and that would be -12. The change in value of a share of a stock was -45 cents. On a Monday, it's -$1.32, and on Tuesday, it's 27 cents. Wait, sorry. On Monday, it's -47 cents. Then Tuesday, it's -$1.32. Wednesday, 27 cents, and Thursday, $1.03. Which day was the absolute value greatest? Was the absolute value of the change the greatest? So basically, it's asking which one is the greatest in the absolute value. So let's write it all out. Now we know that absolute value, whatever is in there, you would just add, but since there's nothing to add, we just change them. If they're negative, you just change them to positive, and there's the positive, you just write it out again. So since this is a negative, you just write it as a positive, so it says 45. This is a negative as well, so you just write it as a positive. This is already a positive, so you just write it out. This is a positive, same thing. So, and I'll label it, this is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then this is Thursday. Now if we look, 45 cents and 27 cents, these are obviously lower than these two because it's not even $1. And so now we have $1.32 and $1.03. Now all we have to use is just logic, which is Tuesday, because you have around 29 cents more than this. So the answer would be Tuesday. So given the value of A, find negative A and then the absolute value of A. So we know that A equals 6. So all we have to do is just plug it in like this. So A, to find negative A, you just write what is given, just 6. Now you want to do it in parentheses, this. And then you write a negative on the outside, and that just equals negative 6. And then the absolute value of 6, which is like this, since it's already a positive, you just write it out. So yeah, that's how you do it. Thank you for watching.